back in the studio with Loyce Craft, and she's going to bring us up to date with lots of exciting things going on with Pastoral Ministries.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm glad to be here this morning. I think on my way I was thinking I needed a good tailwind or some roller skates to get here on time, but certainly it's a pleasure to be here and with you, Yvonne. Don't get a chance to see you that much anymore, but certainly a pleasure. I want to kind of backtrack just a little bit about a couple of things. And the first is that now that the ban has been lifted, you know how good it is to be able to resume
to be back
all
of
these activities. You know, we were juggling for several weeks, and certainly though with good cause, because you know, whenever we would hear that there were, you know, fewer cases on a particular day or what have you, we wanted people to be well. So I think that had been on the hearts and minds of so many in this community, both for the residents and for the staff. But it was nice to be able to go through the hallways and see, you know, activities resuming, and so that was really, really nice. So I'm just glad to see that. And then also just wanted to mention this past weekend's windstorm. You know, it was nice to be here on Friday, but then also remembering so many others that didn't have power, whose power, you know, was going out, and the thousands and thousands of people. Our power actually went out on Friday morning just before I left, and it came back on yesterday morning about 9:30.
Really? So, you were without that long?
No, so 49 hours of no power, but I think that it really helps to put things in perspective. And for me, it was an opportunity to just focus on simplicity. And you know, without having all the extra bells and whistles, but to just come together in community, you know, some of my neighbors. So certainly want to just extend wishes for, you know, everyone who still doesn't have power, that they will have that. But it is a blessing to be here and to have not had to deal with that. You know, that's wonderful. The staff and everyone around here who works to keep things going. So I just wanted to mention that prior to going into what we're doing this morning. So I'll be talking about Pastoral Ministries and also some of the things that the faith communities are doing. And then for a number of us, we've had to, you know, kind of reschedule or juggle or what have you, but are just looking to get back up to speed and get to a schedule that flows. So having said all of that, what we're hoping to be able to show, Pastoral Ministries is hoping to be able to show if the Village Square Theater is operational the way that we need for it to be on tomorrow. We're planning to show the movie Iron-Jawed Angels. And it was recommended by a Green Spring resident, Pat McGrady, and who brought it to our attention. But it looks like, I haven't had a chance to see the whole movie yet, but concerning the women's right to vote, I think it's a very powerful movie and sends a great message. And then in honor of Women's History Month, because March is National Women's History Month, and it does even extend internationally to some countries. And so that's the reason for wanting to show that particular movie this month, just to note what happened. I think so many of us who weren't born, who weren't alive during that time, and even some of the years immediately following, either don't know or don't have an appreciation the way that we should. So we wanted to bring that movie to the community, again, at the recommendation of the resident, and having said that as well, if there are other movies that residents would like to see, and it fits within the scope of what we try to do, we invite you to make recommendations. So tomorrow, if all goes well, in the Village Square Theater at 1 o'clock, we will be showing the movie Iron-Jawed Angels. Some people had inquired about a February movie, which was Loving, and so we were not able to show that movie, but we are looking for another date to be able to bring that movie to the community as well. I think the movie is very well done, and then looking at all it took to get to a place where there could be interracial marriage, and looking at the Racial Integrity Act of 1924, and just what so many people had to go through, and that change that was made in 1967 that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. So we're looking forward to showing that movie as well. And then the last thing that I want to mention for Pastoral Ministries for this month is our annual memorial service. We had one date back in January, and then we had another date, and we said, you know what, let's just wait until this passes and then give ourselves about 2 weeks, and then we'll set a date. Right. So on Tuesday, April the 13th, at 1:00 p.m. in the chapel, we will have our annual memorial service. Rabbi Bruce Aft is our guest speaker, and also wanted to mention that the one thing that we have been trying to do for several years and hadn't been able to do it, was to be able to reach out to all of the families who were associated with those residents who had died in previous years. So this is the year, and will still be the year, that we will finally be able to have that. We're not sure about the number of people now because we're having to go back and call families once again, but I think for January, we had gotten up to about 35 family members who were going to be with us. So, and we have a special part that they will do during the annual memorial service. So again,
that's always a beautiful service.
Yes, it's so touching to be able to come together as a community, to be able to honor people, you know, our family members, our friends, our neighbors who've died in the previous year. So again, Tuesday, March 13th, 1:00 p.m. in the chapel. We hope that people will be able to make it and support that. Some other faith communities that I'd like to mention and just highlight a few of their activities. Green Spring Fellowship on Tuesday, March 13th, they're going to be presenting the movie Maudie at 7:00 p.m. in the Village Square Theater. That's Tuesday, March 13th, the presentation of the movie Maudie in the theater at 7:00. And then they are featuring an Easter cantata on Monday, March 19th at 7:00 in the chapel. Love music. And then lastly, the one thing that I wanted to mention that they're doing, they're doing something special that they've not been able to, have not done before, and they are featuring the Stations of the Cross. And so that will be done on Tuesday, March the 27th, from 10 a.m. to 8:00 p.m. in the chapel. So people are invited. It'll probably be up on Monday if people wanted to come by.
Kind of a drop-in type?
Sure, yes. But then officially on Tuesday, March the 27th in the chapel, and it will be running all day long. And then the Episcopal Anglican Fellowship, along with the Village Church, and they've done this for several years now, on Sunday, March the 18th, Sunday, March 18th at 3:30 p.m. in the chapel, the Washington Metropolitan Youth Orchestra.
Oh, it's wonderful. It is a wonderful group.
They are such a blessing, and I think I heard them the first time that they came to this community several years ago, and I was just amazed. And you need to come early to get a good seat, but they are professional. They are beautiful, and just listening. I think that first year I actually sat a chair out in the foyer and listened to the music because the sanctuary was just packed. So again, on Sunday, March 18th, the Episcopal Anglican Fellowship with the Village Church are sponsoring the Washington Metropolitan Youth Orchestra. And then the Village Church has a couple of additional activities that they are sponsoring later on during the month of March. The first is the Maundy Thursday dramatization that was put together by Reverend Dr. Lynn Kalkworth on Wednesday, March 28th and Thursday, March 29th at 7:30 in the chapel. If you want to come and just see this this special presentation in honor of Holy Week, we certainly invite you to come out and to, you know, participate
Very
in
well
that.
done.
Very well done. I think I know that one of our staff persons has been involved in
Yes.
those dramatizations, Sue Frankie, who does a great job as well. And so if you have any questions about that, you can either call Pastoral Ministries or the Village Church, or certainly see Dr. Kalkorff. And then lastly, for the Village Church, on Friday, March the 30th, for a Good Friday service. And this is also an event that Dr. Kalkorff is sponsoring as a part of the Village Church. They're doing the 7 last words.
Right.
And that will be from noon until 3 o'clock in the chapel. Last year was the first year that he organized that, and the way that he sets it up is there are musical interludes in between each of the words, so people can really come and go. I know 3 hours is a long period of time for some people to sit, but certainly you can come and go for, you know, whichever of the words
Right.
you want to hear. So
And as I recall, the way they had it set up last year was that there were certain stations around the chapel that people could visit for a certain emphasis.
yes. And so that one, again, from 12 to 3 on Friday, March the 30th. And then I want to mention a few things that our Jewish community is doing. They have rescheduled their corned beef, I love corned beef, their corned beef evening to remember. It's rescheduled for Sunday, March the 18th at 5:30 p.m. in the Hunters Crossing Conference Center. And then also their Jewish study hour, which they do on a monthly basis, on Tuesday, March the 27th, the Jewish study hour at 11 o'clock in the Town Center Card Room. And then lastly, for people to save the date, the annual Passover Seder that they sponsored is going to be held on April the 3rd, also in the Hunters Crossing Conference Center.
Okay.
So lots and lots of activities
Lots of things going
that are
on.
coming up this month. But certainly, you know, as I mentioned earlier, just kind of going through, getting things resettled. I know some people are still shifting,
Right.
you know, events and activities. We're still doing the same. There were a few activities that we had worked with Ellen Gale to bring to the community that are being rescheduled for a later date. And as soon as she's able to coordinate with John Ribicki on that, we'll have that information available. In particular, there was a session that John was doing on sin and redemption.
Right.
So we're looking, we're doing sin in the morning.
And redemption
break for
later.
lunch and redemption in the afternoon. It's always good when we can have redemption. But then looking at several other things, educational, you know, sessions that we would like to bring to the community. And
Well,
trying to-
sounds like a real spiritual feast we have coming up.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Thank you so much, Loyce.
You're very welcome.